don't think anyone, even die-hard Marvel fans, thought Wonder Man would be what it is, and that is just an exceptional show. It completely breaks the mold, and it's because it doesn't rely on action. It dives into deeper themes and prioritizes character, and that's why Wonder Man works in ways Marvel may not have fully anticipated. The first genuine surprise of Wonder Man is how little interest it has in being a traditional origin story. There's no checklist, there's no "this is how his powers work" montage, no dramatic turning point episode that screams "this is where he becomes the hero." Instead, we're dropped directly into Simon's life and, more importantly, his problems. He's introduced as an aspiring actor, someone who clearly loves film, performance and storytelling, but whose own conscientiousness actively costs him his opportunities. And that detail really matters, because Wonder Man isn't really about becoming powerful. It's about what happens when someone who already feels like they're performing for the world is forced to confront who they actually are when the cameras stop rolling. That's why the show feels so refreshing. It skips the spectacle and starts with psychology. Marvel has a long history of characters who have strong ideas before they're fully realised people. Simon Williams doesn't fall into that trap. What makes him compelling isn't his future potential, it's the small details. He's talented, but uncertain. He's passionate, but he's also self-sabotaging. And crucially, he's someone whose love for film and performance isn't treated as a joke, but it's central to his character. And as the series goes on, that love becomes central to understanding him. Acting isn't just a job for Simon, it's how he processes the world he lives in. He's constantly performing, constantly adjusting himself for other people, and yet the moments where the show hits the hardest are the ones where he stops trying to play anything at all, where he doesn't overanalyze. That internal conflict gives the series emotional weight most MCU shows never quite land. One of the smartest decisions Wonder Man made is treating its supporting characters more than accessories. The relationship between Simon and Trevor is a perfect example of this. Trevor could have easily been written as comic relief, and on the surface, he kind of is, but the show resists flattening him into a punchline. I think Marvel made a very good decision doing this, using the fake Mandarin plot to completely flip the character on its head, and you can see his inner conflict as the show progresses. Although Trevor used Simon at the start of the story, the inner conflict and battling that arises really makes the character stand out. From trying to get information about Simon to ultimately sacrificing himself at the end of the show, shows not just how much Simon has changed, but also Trevor. And Trevor becomes a mirror for Simon. He's someone who understands the industry and the pressures, and he's someone who's comfortable with performance. Meanwhile, Simon's distant relationship with his family adds another layer, one that reinforces how isolated he feels when surrounded by people he loves. And I think one of the best scenes that goes under the radar is when he thinks that there's no way out, and he calls his mother to say that he loves her, because it's not something he regularly does. None of these relationships exist just to move the plot forward. They exist to define Simon, which is something Marvel TV often skips in favour of speed and action. The show understands it exists in a universe built on spectacle, branding and performance, but it never stops the story to congratulate itself for that awareness. Instead, it lets the themes do the work. A character struggling to separate who he is from what he's expected to be. It's commentary about cynicism, reflection without irony poisoning. That restraint is important because it keeps the show grounded. The visuals, farming and pacing support that tone. Slower scenes linger, and emotional beats are allowed to land without interruption. And that's one thing that Marvel never does, and that's trust in silence. So why did Wonder Man catch people off guard? It's because their expectations were so low, and the show quietly did something different. It's extremely funny in moments where it needs to be, but it can also be emotional too. Wonder Man isn't perfect, but it's clever, thoughtful, and emotionally sincere in a way that Marvel doesn't usually manage. By stripping away spectacle and focusing on character, Marvel accidentally proved something important. Innovation doesn't always come from going bigger. It sometimes comes from going inward. And if Wonder Man is any indication, the MCU still has surprises left, and they don't always need to look like explosions. Did Wonder Man surprise you too? Or is this just a direction Marvel should have taken years ago? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed this breakdown, consider subscribing.